The hidden history of Christmas. Take a moment to look around you during this season. If you walk down any typical American street in December, the sights and sounds are unmistakable. You see houses outlined in miles of shimmering electric lights, inflatable reindeer standing proudly on front lawns, and evergreen wreaths hanging on every door. You smell the sharp scent of pine needles and the sweetness of cinnamon in the air, while melodies you have known since childhood play on every radio. To most of us, it feels as if Christmas has always existed in this form, a perfectly wrapped package of joy, family, and commercial cheer. But if you peel back the layers of tinsel and shiny wrapping paper, you will find a hidden history. It is a history that is much messier, more complex, and far more profound than the holiday movies suggest. Today, we are not just exploring the origins of stockings and trees. We are exploring the reason why humanity has insisted on creating light when the world grows dark. This is a story about the stubborn resilience of hope, and it contains a vital lesson for your own life today. To understand the hidden history of Christmas, we must first turn off the electric lights and travel back in time, long before the first Christmas story was ever told. We have to go back to a time when winter was not just a season of cozy vibes, but a time of genuine terror. Imagine living thousands of years ago in Northern Europe without the luxury of central heating or electricity. As December approached, the days grew shorter and the sun, the source of all life, seemed to be abandoning the world. The nights became long, brutal, and bone-chillingly cold. There was a very real primal fear among ancient peoples that the sun might one day vanish forever and that the darkness would win. Yet in the face of this fear, humanity did not simply give up. Instead, they fought back with fire and festivals. In Rome, they celebrated Saturnalia, a wild and chaotic explosion of life, where social roles were flipped and masters served their slaves. In the north, the Norse people celebrated Yule by dragging massive logs into their homes and lighting them on fire, needing to see the flames to remind themselves that warmth still existed. This is the first lesson of our hidden history. When you are going through a winter in your own life, a period of failure, loneliness, or depression, the human spirit tells you to light a fire. It is during our darkest moments that we must have the most faith that the sun will return. As Christianity began to spread across the globe, it did something brilliant and strategic. Rather than trying to erase these ancient winter rituals, it adopted them. The early church placed the celebration of the birth of Christ directly in the middle of the winter solstice season. It was a fusion of traditions, taking the ancient human desire for the physical sun and turning it into a spiritual desire for a sun who brought light to the soul. However, the history of Christmas was not a smooth journey from that point on. In fact, there was a time when Christmas almost died out completely. During the Middle Ages, the holiday was not the family-centered event we know today. It was often a loud, drunken street festival, more similar to a modern-day Mardi Gras. Because of this rowdy behavior, when the strict Puritans rose to power in England in the 1600s, they decided to do the unthinkable. They canceled Christmas. They believed the holiday had become too sinful and lacked biblical foundation. When the Pilgrims arrived in America, they brought this stern, anti-Christmas attitude with them. It's a shocking fact to many modern Americans, but in early Massachusetts, celebrating Christmas was actually illegal. From 1659 to 1881, if you were caught feasting or even refusing to work on December 25th, you were forced to pay a fine. For an entire generation in parts of early America, Christmas went dark. It was a forbidden joy, hidden behind closed doors. This part of the hidden history teaches us a powerful lesson about resilience. You cannot legislate away the human need for joy, and you cannot crush hope with rules. Even when the authorities said no, the spirit of the season lived on quietly in the hearts of the people. Sometimes in your life, your external circumstances will try to ban your joy. You might feel like you aren't allowed to be happy because of your current situation. The history of Christmas tells you to rebel against that darkness and find your joy anyway. By the early 1800s, Christmas was fading into obscurity once again. The Industrial Revolution had arrived, moving people away from their villages and into crowded, gray cities. People were working 16-hour days in factories, and the old community traditions were being forgotten. Christmas was becoming just another day of labor. But then two major cultural events occurred that saved the holiday and invented the version of Christmas we recognize today. The first was the publication of a small book in 1843 titled A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. Before this book, Christmas was largely about feasting, but Dickens changed the conversation. Through the story of Ebenezer Scrooge's redemption, he suggested that Christmas was truly about charity and the heart. He made kindness fashionable and reminded the world that we are all fellow passengers to the grave who should help one another. The second event was a simple drawing published in 1848 showing Queen Victoria and her husband, Prince Albert, standing with their children around a decorated evergreen tree. Because Victoria was the ultimate influencer of her time, every family in England and America suddenly wanted a tree in their home. The holiday shifted from a public riot in the streets to an intimate celebration of the family unit. This was the great reinvention of the holiday. Society looked at a bleak industrial winter and decided to rewrite the narrative. We have that same power in our own lives today. If your current life story or your current season isn't serving you, you have the authority to change the script. You can decide, just like the Victorians did, that you will focus on generosity and connection rather than the coldness of the world outside. You can bring a new tree into your life and start a tradition of hope. Eventually, these traditions reached America and were supercharged by American enthusiasm and creativity. Today, it is very easy to be cynical about the commercialism of Christmas, the endless shopping, the rush for perfection, and the stress of the season. But if you look closer at the American Christmas, you see something spectacular. You see people putting up thousands of lights on their homes, not for themselves, but to make the world feel a little more magical for the strangers driving by. You see a massive tree in the middle of a concrete jungle like New York City, standing as a beacon of light. The hidden history of Christmas is not really about Santa Claus, shopping, or even the specific date of December 25th. It is a 1,000-years-old story of humanity facing the terrifying winter of existence and saying, "We will not let the darkness win." It is a story of survivors who refused to be cold, who refused to be quiet, and who insisted on feasting even when the cupboards were bare. It is a history of rediscovering light after it has been lost. As you move through this season, or as you face any difficult time in your personal journey, remember the ancients who fought their fear with a simple bonfire. Remember the resilience of those who kept the holiday alive when it was banned. Remember how a single story by Dickens changed the hearts of millions. No matter what kind of winter you are facing right now, whether it's a financial struggle, a broken heart, or a loss of faith, remember that you are part of this long history of hope. You have the materials within you to build a fire. You have the power to rewrite your story from one of misery to one of redemption. The lights we hang today are a defiant statement against the dark. They say that we believe the sun will return. They say that we believe in the goodness of our fellow human beings. So take the lessons of this hidden history and apply them to your life. Be the light in someone else's darkness. Have faith in the return of the sun. Keep building, keep hoping, and keep moving forward. The history of Christmas is your history, and it is a story that never truly ends as long as there is a single light burning in the window.